Hi everyone, it's been a while since I posted a new video. I think it's been about over a year. So my goal this year is to start posting more content on my YouTube channel and really growing it. So hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already so you can be kept up to date on all new content that I upload. So today's video is in two parts. Part one, I explain this experience that I've been having over the last year, and part two, I share some tools and techniques that I use to overcome this challenge. I wasn't sure if I wanted to film and release this video just yet because it's a really vulnerable topic for me. But I thought, there's a lot of stigma around mental health, especially in men. As men, we're not really that open about our feelings, and when you really let things to fester inside, it has really unhealthy consequences. It's okay to feel emotions and ask for help and support if you're going through a difficult time. It shouldn't be seen as weak. We're all human. We all have different phases in our life, and they're not always going to be strong and happy. And I just thought it's really important to start having these conversations really openly rather than being afraid of looking as though we seem weak and being judged by others. So just to give you a bit of background to the story, I've always been a bit of a worrier, but I never would have said I had anxiety because I was always very social. I loved going out, I loved meeting new people. I used to have some worries, but those worries never actually stopped me from doing anything in my life. I just kind of had those thoughts, but then I went away and did things anyways. And also, I actually didn't know what a panic attack was. So from what I'd seen on TV, or what I'd imagined a panic attack was, is I thought it was someone hyperventilating, they're on the floor, they're unable to move, and very paralyzed. So a couple of years ago, I actually started having panic attacks, and at the time, I didn't know there were panic attacks. So I remember being in my room, and all of a sudden I felt really hot and a bit dissociated from my surroundings. My heart started beating like 100 beats a minute, and I had these crazy thoughts that I was gonna have a heart attack, or I was gonna faint, or I was gonna die. And I just felt this immense terror for a couple of minutes, and then it just passed, and I was like, oh, okay, that was really strange, that was really weird. But then I didn't think anything of it, and I just kind of ignored it and just went about with my day. And so this would happen sporadically throughout the year, and I kind of just ignored what it was, or I just pushed it out of my mind because I didn't know what they were. I just thought, okay, that was a really weird 3 minutes. Now, let me just ignore that and get on with my day. And it wasn't until about a year or so later I came across this article that was talking about panic attacks. And after reading the article, I then realized oh, those weird little brief moments that I was experiencing were actually panic attacks. All of the panic attacks that I'd had previously always happened when I was in my bedroom or in my house. So they always occurred in a sort of safe space environment. But last February I was getting the tube in the morning, and I hadn't really slept well the night before. I had some really horrible dreams, so I wasn't really with it in the morning. I was already feeling a bit tired and a bit on edge, and I got on the tube and it was fine, but then all of a sudden it got really crowded and hot, and I was wearing this thick woolly top, so it wasn't really a comfortable experience. And then about one stop before I was meant to get off, I all of a sudden started to feel really dizzy, very disassociated. Then my heart started going 100 beats a minute, and then I had these crazy thoughts I was going to pass out, or I was going to die on the tube or something. And I just felt this immense feeling of panic and terror just passing through my body. And so when the tube stopped, I got off the tube and I ran to the side, sat down and started swigging my water and just trying to chug loads of cold water down and calm down. And then once a few minutes had passed, I realized oh, I've just had a panic attack. And so yeah, this was the first panic attack that I'd had outside, and yeah, it was a very frightening experience. And then shortly after this, 2 weeks later, I was doing the most menial task. I was literally just walking through a door in a public space, and just out of nowhere, I just boom, had this horrible really long panic attack, and it was awful. It was frightening. I had no idea what was going on. And yeah, this experience really terrified me because I was out in public. You feel really vulnerable, and panic attacks, they're so physical. You feel all these crazy intense bodily sensations, and all these thoughts start rolling around your mind, and it's a really intense, physical, horrible experience. And this second panic attack that I'd had in public really was the catalyst for further panic attacks and a heightened level of anxiety on a daily basis. So around this time, I wasn't really having the most positive thought patterns or the most healthy, healthy, positive thinking behaviors. At this time, I was really self-critical. I was judging myself a lot. I had a lot of things going on in my personal life, so I was really worried and concerned about how those situations were going to pan out. And really, during this time period, I wasn't really taking the time out to process the experiences that I was going through or what was going on in my mind. And so the first panic attack, I could really make sense of that because, I hadn't really slept well the night before. It was I was feeling really hot on the tube, it was really crowded, etc. So yeah, okay, I had a panic attack. But the second one, where I just kind of crept up on me from nowhere when I was out in public, was really scary. What I eventually learned through doing some research is that when the body is in a constant state of high anxiety, it's really easy for the fight or flight response to be triggered. So that's why you can be doing something really menial, such as making a coffee, or in my case, walking through a door, and then boom, you're just in this fight or flight response and experiencing this panic attack. So yeah, after these two experiences that started last February, I then began experiencing panic attacks on a regular basis. So I began having them weekly. It then started getting to a point when I was having them every day. At my most worst period, I would have 2 or 3 panic attacks a day. It was a very exhausting time. If you've suffered from panic attacks, they really take it out of you. They drain your energy. You just want to hide under your bed and just never come out. It was a really crazy, intense time for me, and I was really confused because I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know when I was going to have my next panic attack. I would then start panicking about all the situations, like, would I have a panic attack here? Will I have a panic attack here? I then began to isolate myself because the panic attacks were happening so randomly. So I remember one time I was just going to meet my friends, and I just left my flat and I walked 5 minutes down the road, and I had a panic attack in the middle of the street, out of nowhere for no reason. And I was afraid of the next day because I didn't know what situation in that day was going to trigger a panic attack, or was I going to be fine, or was I going to have 2 or 3 this day. Another thing that was really difficult for me was like queuing up or standing in lines. I had so many panic attacks when I was lining up just to get food, or when I was buying lunch. I don't know what it was, but it was just this experience of having to stand still and queue up for something would make me feel really anxious and panicky. There were so many moments where I'd be in a queue and I'd be having a panic attack. I thought I was going to die, or I was going to throw up, and my heart would be beating like 100 times a second. But I just did what I could to get through the experience, because I never wanted to leave the line, because I knew if I started leaving lines, then that would become a bad habit. Another thing that I experienced was anxiety-related dizziness. If you're watching this video and you suffer from anxiety or have a panic disorder, then you may know what I mean by anxiety-related dizziness, because if you do, the struggle is real. Like, I had anxiety-related dizziness for about 6 to 8 months. It was horrible. I experienced dizziness sometimes for a short period of time, or sometimes for longer periods. There was this one point when it was really bad, when I was experiencing a lot of panic attacks, that I had really bad dizziness, and there were some days where I literally felt like I was drunk all the time. Just when I was like walking or stood there, everything just felt really off balance. But after doing some research, I realized that people that are experiencing regular panic attacks normally also experience dizziness as a related symptom, because we've got a lot of the stress hormones circulating through our body, and this creates this sort of dizziness symptom. I'll do a separate video on the tools that I use to overcome anxiety related dizziness, because that was a really big, horrible symptom that I had for me. But I haven't experienced this dizziness since August last year, so yeah, it feels great to feel normal again. So if you're feeling this symptom, then don't worry, it does wane over time. So yeah, back to the story. So yeah, I started experiencing the panic attacks last February. They then began happening more frequently around about April, May time was when I sought professional help. So I was referred to a psychologist to have CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, which was really helpful. You know, if you're struggling with anxiety or panic disorder, then I would highly recommend seeing your GP and trying to get some CBT treatment, because it really helped me manage my emotions, manage my thoughts, and help me overcome these panicky experiences. I also did some EFT tapping, which is where you tap on these 7 points on the body, and it sends like a calming signal to your amygdala, which calms down the fight or flight response. EFT massively helped me with reducing my anxiety levels and helping me overcome my panic attack. So it's now been just over a year since I started, you know, going through all of those panic attacks, etc. And yeah, I feel good. I feel like my old self again. You know, I feel great. I feel a lot more calmer. I have like highly reduced anxiety levels. I have this new joy and enthusiasm for life and for standing in lines. I honestly love standing in lines, because last year I just couldn't do it. I couldn't stand in lines, they were horrible, and now I love it. I just stand in a line and I'm so grateful, and just like listening to my music or my podcast, it's a great experience. So that's not to say I'm now immune to anxiety or panic attacks. I still have days when I feel overwhelmed. I still have some days where I feel really anxious at times, but I nip it in the bud then. I have this sort of newfound awareness, so I'll, you know, if I'm feeling really stressed or anxious, I'll like try and tune into myself and be like, you know, what's causing this, what's triggering this, what actions can I now take to feel a bit more at peace today or later on in the day. So that was just an overview of my experiences with anxiety and panic over the last year. I now just wanted to share some tools with you. So, you know, if you're experiencing something similar, then hopefully these tools can provide you with some sort of relief. So firstly, if you're dealing with really bad anxiety, or you're experiencing panic attacks or something else where you think you might need some additional support, then there's some helplines you can call. You can call Samaritans, or Minds UK have a lot of good mental health resources on their websites. You can also speak to your GP and try and get some form of treatment underway, such as CBT or something else that they think is beneficial for you. I really wish I had sought professional help a lot sooner, because I let my anxiety and panic, you know, consume a large portion of my life before I then began seeking professional help for it. Secondly, I highly recommend putting together a self-care routine. Find what takes your mind off everyday stresses, what lights you up, what brings you joy. It could be something that you did when you were a child. You know, you can exercise, meditate, paint, watch a film. Make a list of these activities that you can do, so you've got something on hand on days when you're feeling extra overwhelmed or anxious. And finally, the last thing that I wanted to say is, if you're struggling with something right now, then have faith that it will get better. You know, even if you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, just trust me, have faith, and just know that things will get better with time. Because last year, I honestly never thought I would feel the way that I do now. It was a really dark and depressing and horrible time, and I couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, but I just had this faith. I was like, things have to get better. Maybe I can't see how now, but I have faith that things are going to improve, and over time somehow I'll feel normal. I don't know when. And yeah, it's now been a year later, and I feel like so much calmer, so much at peace. Like I never thought I would have felt this way again. So keep the faith. You know, you'll find a way to heal and recover, and you'll come back like 100 times stronger than before, and you'll be so proud of yourself for overcoming this challenge. So if you've made it this far to the end of the video, thank you a lot for watching. Share this video with your friends, because you know, you never know when someone's struggling, and maybe they could find some benefit in this video as well. I'll start sharing some more tools and techniques that I use to overcome my anxiety and panic attacks in more videos, going into more details around certain principles and certain tools that I used, as well as posting more motivational, uplifting content as well. Until then, subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button below, give this video a like, leave a comment if you enjoyed the video, and also follow me on Instagram, because I post a lot of regular content on there as well. Thanks for watching.